Good morning, grade 12s. Hope you had a good rest from IT yesterday and ready for our double period today. We are going to continue and conclude our chapter on SQL. That is chapter 4. We will still later on next term or perhaps it's coming sooner than later, depending on what the department decides on whether we can go back to school or not. But we still have to do delete and update and insert into a database using SQL statements. But we are pausing our SQL for now after this. Obviously, you're going to apply this to your PAT still in the coming weeks, but we are concluding this chapter today. So today we're going to look at grouping results and applying criteria to groups of records. I thought because we have a double period, we will be able to do both concepts today. So let's get right to it. So grouping results, let's take this for example. We have lots of learners at GLA and they're each, in grades. So let's say I've got a table that has all information of all possible learner in GLA, and I want to count how many learners there are in each grade. So obviously I will have a temporary field, a calculated field that counts, all the learners. But now I want to group it according to grade. So all grade 8s, and I'm counting them in all grade 9s, 10s, 11s, and 12s. And then I will have the results grouped according to grade. And that's the idea behind grouping. The keyword in SQL keyword is called group by, and it works as follows. So in the example that they have in the book, they have the CD database, and in that database, in that table, we have a field called genre, and the total one is a temporary field, which is a calculated field that counts or adds up, sums up all the replacement values of a certain genre. So we are selecting our genre, format as currency, the sum of the replacement value as currency, as total. So this is our select statement from which table? The CD table. And then we're simply grouping it by genre. And the rest it does by itself. There's no where clause because there's no criteria here. We're simply adding up all the replacement values, but we are grouping it according to genre. Okay, now obviously we can now still sort something like that. So let's look at the other example. Here we have something similar to the example that I've just mentioned in the beginning. So we're selecting our register class, count everything as number of learners from learner, and then we have a group by register class, so it's A, B, C, D, E, and then we have a sort that is added to it, order by register class, so they are in alphabetical order. Okay, now we're going to add a criteria or condition to our grouping. So in this case, we have a owner surname plus a space plus owner first name. Now this field does not exist, so it's a concatenation of two fields and a space in between, and it's a temporary field because the owner surname exists, the owner first name exists, but not combined. So we are concatenating this as name, formatting the replacement value as currency as total from owner and CD. Then where owner ID and owner, where they are linked, because these two come out of the replacement value as well as the owner surname and owner first name comes out of two different tables. Group by, and now look at this, we are using our concatenation as our group. So this information in the owner table or in the CD table for that will occur more than once because they own more than one CD. So we group it according to the concatenation. It's very similar to what we've said before. We cannot group according to a temporary field. So we have to concatenate it again. And then we can sort it according to, and again, we have to replace. We cannot sort it according to the temporary field. We have to do the sum again, and this time in descending order. And it does the following. So it concatenates the name and it adds up, the worth of the CDs that they own. All right, that is grouping. So we are, that's the first thing, and you can pause this video and do activity 10. I have done the activity and again deleted the code, so all the forms have been created for you, so you can simply make use of that. So there are two activities in activity 10. All right, then how was that? If you pause the video, it was awesome. If you continue, this sounds weird because I'm just continuing. Anyways, okay, so the second part of the video or the lesson today is applying now criteria to our groups. So we've already touched on it in the third example that they've given because we had a link between two tables. So our where clause, our condition, we needed to add the link between them two. But we are now going to apply more criteria to our groups, and that is done in SQL with the keyword having. So in this example, we are selecting the genre. We are formatting the replacement value as currency, as we've done before, as total, from CD, grouped by genre. So it's exactly the same as our first example when we talked about grouping. However, we want to apply now criteria or condition to our query. So where the sum of the replacement value is bigger than 2000. So in our previous example, all of the records were shown, but now we have a condition that it needs to be bigger than 2000. And we do that by adding, after the grouping, a having clause. Having sum, so we're repeating this, and we have the condition. So it's a condition applied to a group is not done with a where clause, but with a having clause. So in this example, there is no where clause, but a having one on the same aggregate function that we have used in our select statement. Okay, in the next example, we have again an example where there is data or fields used from multiple tables. So we select PayPoint name, and then we have sum of the children as total children from PayPoint and person. Remember the PP and PS are the aliases for the PayPoint table and the person table. Where, and then there's the link, group by PayPoint name, and now we are applying our criteria. Having sum of children, there we go, bigger than 300. And then we are sorting it according to PayPoint name. And that concludes the video, as well as SQL. I would like you to do activity 11 now. Again, I have created the form for you, and you, you have written it in 10.2, but I have already copied it over, and you just have to apply the code that is required of you. Just very briefly on subqueries, just so that you are aware of what we actually mean by subqueries. But as I've communicated with you, this is not important, or I think it's not so important. I don't think this is going to be in your exam. We will, if there's time later on in the term or in the year, we will come back to this. But basically, we have a query, and then we have a subquery, because we want to use a field that has that uses an average. For example, if I want to say, like, this subquery is applicable to the where clause in the the condition of a query. So in this case, I want to display only children where the children are bigger than the average of all children. But this field does not exist. We don't know it. It's a calculation that needs to be done before we can do this. So a subquery works as this. In our condition or in our where clause, we can kind of insert another SQL statement. And this subquery then is executed first. And then the rest, the condition is applied to our query. So in this case, the value or the value of the average is 1.98, and now only the the children will be, or only the records where the children are bigger than 1.98, which means if the average, so only 2 or 3 or 4 kids will show. So there we go. Select PayPoint name, surname, person name, children from PayPoint, where PayPoint, so it's a link table, and children is bigger than the average from person, so only those that are bigger than 1.98 are actually shown in this. So yeah, that's basically it. So it's not anything new. It's just adding another SQL statement within our where clause, which is the condition of our first query. All right, but now I need you to do activity 11, and if you haven't done 10 yet, 10 and 11. All right, guys, enjoy.